This is now available on Ko-Fi if you guys want this presentation. It's elaborate, and next week's very elaborate also. I just started working on next week's today because things that I wanted to reduce from this one, I moved over into next week. And so the next week's slide deck is starting to build. It's a big one. So let's go find out about this thing because it's elaborate and it's confusing to most people. I've had many emails about, can you tell me the difference between, and then they'll fill in the blanks, right? And, can you tell by looking at this one right now in this picture, can you tell which one this is? Is this the AS365 or is this the HH65A? So that's the two main things we're looking at here, right? And tonight is just the AS365. Now, everything we're learning tonight, we're going to fly it on the basic parameters first, and then we're going to go into some autopilot stuff that this one can do. And that's really cool. I was flying around this resort area on autopilot. I was doing automatic descends, automatic climbing, and then I was doing automatic altitude hold while I was using the heading bug to steer while I'm flying a helicopter. So, the first thing that Mike's probably thinking right now is, where was all that when I was learning to fly helicopters? But he didn't need it, right? So Maddie Lynn says, Dauphin is French, and it's used to be a title given to the heir to the French monarch. Oh, wow. The heir to the French monarch. Wow. It is the French-made version. Actually, all versions are actually originally made. Aerospatiale was certainly the company that made it, all this stuff. And the HH version is the U.S. Coast Guard. So, we'll learn about that in this presentation, you guys. And we're moving that one off to next week because it can actually do a lot more of the activities that we want to try that are automated, like automatically descend to the water and then hover so many feet above the water automatically while you do your rescue. That I want to do in career mode, because you can't touch the water, you'll end the mission. But stuff like that, so that you can focus on the rescue itself. So we'll look at all that stuff next week. There's so much stuff in here. That's what we'll do, right? Okay. Thanks for the new follow there. Hey, Andrew. That's what Zybok says. He says, hey, Andrew.
Hey, Zybok.
There we go. It's, in the old days we used to say hi, but now we say hey. Introduction to it. Let's go take a look at simulator control. This is something that I came back and did properly. At first, it was like, yeah, I've got helicopter controls. Yeah, I've got force feedback. I've got it all figured out. I've been doing helicopters for years. And so let's take it for a spin. Well, nothing worked, honestly. And I had to sit down and look at those mappings and go, wow. And I had to change them. So I made that an importance part. You're going to find, you guys, that when it comes to Tuesday lessons, I don't know everything. I never will. But I love learning stuff. And I love figuring out how to teach it in a simpler way, a way that I wish I were taught. So that's the root of my teaching. That's the root of my whole certification too, is that take something complex, something that was very confusing, and try to distill it down into something you can easily understand. So hopefully that's what happens in these Tuesday sessions. That is a perfect example of this. You take a look. I'm going to show you this keybind mapping. I don't know, 3 pages of keybind mappings, and they're not your normal mappings. How do we sort that out? Most people are like, are you kidding? And then there's a few other things here that they're just like 59 liveries, and what are all these variants and what's going, like what? So it is a lot and it's overwhelming to a lot of people. So let's go get this thing done. Now, if you just fire this thing up on the runway and you're already running and you just fly it, you're done. No worries, all right? And in fact, tonight we're going to start the engines with Control E. I'm serious, you guys. We're going to save ourselves about 45 minutes because I'm learning our Tuesday lessons are going too long. And part of it is we're starting engines properly. So we've done that so many times now. Go back to a VOD. Go back to something else where we do that. Or maybe I'll pull out just the engine start part and make a video that's free somewhere, and do that kind of thing. So Taog's Hangars, the ones who make this, if you guys remember, they did something like the Alouette. They did something like the Huey. We've looked at stuff like this. What's the little, I can't even say the name of the thing, the little popular helicopter, is it the O6A? We've done lessons on a few of their products already, and they were just as detail oriented. And I will say, you guys, study level. They have pilots who fly these things in real life that test them, and they change it. This is probably 2 years in the making. Think about that for a second. 2 years in the making, and I'm going to teach you how to use it, how to fly it properly in 2.5 hours, or probably 2 hours by the time we get down to actually teaching. So, you know, we're not going to do miracles. We're going to get you in there and get you going and get you comfortable with the thing. And next week we'll do some more advanced stuff. Today we'll finish with autopilot stuff. How do you do that? What do you need to look at? How do you turn it off? What should you bind on your, you know, I'm going to be going through all that stuff. So walk around for sure, just to have a look at the thing to start with. Hover checks. Hover checks you always do with every helicopter. You get into your first hover, they call it skid height, but it could be any hover before you start, turn into wind, and now you do your checks to make sure everything's working before you start moving. Because if you have to set it down, 3 feet isn't hard, especially something like this. It has suspension on its wheels. You can set this thing down hard, and you haven't hurt anybody. So that's why you do your hover checks, you guys. Same as what we do with run-up. You know, we do a run-up with conventional airplanes because you can't just plop it back down after 3 feet and hope that you survive. So it's a little different. So we are going to do 7 steps, of course. This is learning a whole new aircraft, so we got to do that. I've changed the order in the 7 steps for this one. We're going to go look at cockpit first and get familiar with that before we actually go and start it up, right? So, you know, I'm moving it around. I'm testing how effective that is. I want to hear some feedback from you guys, okay? On whether that's effective or not. All right, let's rock and roll. So here it is in the marketplace, you guys, and look at all the different pictures and all the different variations. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but there it is, and here's what the real cockpit looks like. Look at this. Well, it's one of many variations, but this is the AS365 cockpit, and you'll notice the difference already, and you'll see this as we go along with my lesson. This vertical patch here of analog, that tells you right there that it's an AS365, okay? That's just giving you a hint right there. That kind of layout, because it's very different when you get to the HH65 for the Coast Guard. All right, there'll be a horizontal strip of digital, all right? So that's the first thing we'll take a look at. And another thing we're going to be focusing on, I'm just noticing that they do have a very different layout here on the real one, but that's okay. So I thought I'd show you, there's the real deal, and then we go and take a look at the one we have. Obviously, when you get your helicopter brand new, you buy whatever parts you want and put them wherever you want. That's how they typically do it. So it was like, you know, here's a real one, and you know, they're not cheap. All right, the 70s, the Dolphin was a medium weight, is a medium weight multi-purpose twin engine. So twin engine's important, you guys. We'll have a couple diagrams on that and just see what that's all about. Airbus helicopters, which is all the, you know, go back and look at the history, you guys. It's a merger of so many companies over the years. This happens in this industry. There must not be money in making aircraft, right? As with any product, whether it be this expensive or cheaper, any product, even things that you buy in consumer stores, the ramp up, the manufacturing, the distribution, the profit margin, all of that stuff, you guys, it's a wonder people do make money, you know, and when they do make money, keep making more of them, right? So, you know, who knows? Major variations and versions have been developed by the name of Eurocopter Panther for the military, HH or MH65 Dolphin, which is we're looking at next week, and Eurocopter EC155. So you'll hear those different names coming out from the different merging companies along the way. Long ranges, well suited to operating in climates of high ambient temperatures and high altitude. So this is obviously desirable for things like search and rescue and military operations and police escorts or police, we'll say, activities, right? The FADEC controlled twin engines. We've talked about FADEC before. Somebody in chat can type in what FADEC means. They drive the rotorcraft's foldable Starflex main rotor. Well, let's talk a bit about that and the Finestron anti-torque or tail rotor. Very unique and very distinctive looking tail rotor on these, and there's a reason for that. It's not good for maintenance people, they hate it, but it's certainly good for all the other reasons, and we'll go take a look at that. So I've cleaned this up, Charlie, since you proofread it. I got rid of that first one that gave us the basic specifications, and then I went into this screen, which gave us the more elaborate specifications, and I put all these pictures on the side to make it a little more interesting. But this is, you're going to find as we go along, everybody, that we are, let me just pull this back a bit. It's booming in my ear. There we go. So you're going to find that we are going to be referencing the manual all the way through this lesson, because the manual is very elaborate and has all the details, and I'm not just going to retype stuff. So every time you see something like this, it comes from the manual. I want to make reference to that, and I want to make sure they get credit for that, because I didn't sit and type all this stuff, and I'm not going to sit and recreate it, right? This is all important stuff, and you might want this stuff, you might not in this kind of lesson. I'm going to turn this into a YouTube because it was so much work, you guys. I got to leave it somewhere where it will have longevity, right? And people can go back to it again and again. So this will end up being a YouTube. But you know, then you can pause the screen and just have a look at this. You know, we used to rely on VODs, you guys, but VODs are disappearing left and right. So I've got to do something else to make these things last longer. There's a lot of work involved in these, and it's got to keep them around, some of them. So now we can take a look at some of this information. Some of you may not care about all this kind of detail, all right? You might focus on one thing or the other that you need to know, but it gives you all the great detail, and that's what manuals are about. These manuals, typically you don't read them cover to cover. They're a reference manual. If you were a pilot in real life, yes, you would have to visit every one of these pages eventually, and you have to memorize some stuff from them, and you have to know how to get to that part of the manual when you're in trouble. And that's like in real life. Here in the sim, of course, we're not that strict, and it's not life and death. If something happens, we press escape and we restart our flight, or something like that. Or we pick ourselves off the ground and slew over where we're supposed to be. You know, we've got that luxury in the sim. So we don't have to be as strict about, you've got to read this thing, I'm going to grill you on it later before you can get your license. You know, we're not going to do that, or before you get your certification. So I just throw a few variations on here just so you can see what it's all about. Let's talk about what you get with this package, all right? So one of the first things about the characteristics of this thing is I want to mention the rotation of the blades. Because it's French made, just like the little G2, you guys, which is in my first set of lessons, my first helicopter course that I put on Udemy, I did the little, long before Microsoft started using it for their lessons, I had it in there and mentioned that it does have this right rotation. You'll notice when we did the helicopter series here on a Tuesday night, not long ago with Mike as the student, as the guinea pig, we were using the Robinson R22, which is a North American training helicopter. One of the reasons I wanted to do that was, first, it's the most produced training helicopter of them all. Also because it does conventional left turning rotors at the top. I was about to say propellers, left turning. So when they talk about left turning, right turning, they typically mean from looking down from above. All right. So looking down from above, this one will go to the right. As a result for that, it yaws nose left as soon as you leave the ground, because you're not being grounded. And then you counter that with right pedal. So a good rule of thumb is, if it's a right turning rotor, you need right pedal. Right turning rotor needs right pedal, looking from above. All right, and that's a good rule to remember. Now the back of it too is very distinctive. It has this fenestron, which actually is made by Airbus, designed by them, or Aerospatiale, I guess, originally. Sideways thrust. It's sitting inside this shafted area here, and it'll have an effect. First of all, it's very efficient. Second of all, it's quiet, and that's one of the reasons they like it. It makes for a quieter sound, and also it's safer. If a passenger ever got near here, or a crew member ever got near this thing, at least it's not bare blades that could chop away, right? Now, obviously, you wouldn't poke anything into this thing, but now we've got, really what it is, you guys, it's really a ducted fan that'll push the back end of your helicopter left or right. Well, that's your typical helicopter design, isn't it? And so because of that, it does have the sideways thrust also pushes the aircraft gently sideways during a hover. So during the hover, remember, in a hover, you're using up to 95% of your available thrust just to stay in a hover. Now, obviously, it depends whether you're at sea level or above, but you're using almost takeoff power to stay in a hover, and that's because you have no forward lift. You're not moving forward. You don't get any lift from that translational lift. So they also have, because you're using all that power, this thing's spinning really hard. Also, even though you're trying to center your rudder pedals, you'll see some drift. And you know, if the helicopter does have this characteristic, it means that they've made the helicopter engine in it realistic. That means this is what real pilots have to deal with, and we get to deal with that here. And that's a sign of how well this thing is made for us in the sim. Helicopter pilots who fly this in real life are amazed at how well it's been made, And this, looking at the anecdotes of all of the test pilots that were actual pilots in real life. So, I'm thrilled when I see this, but it also means that now we got to fly it properly. Now, if you have to, turn on the assists. There's no shame. Do that if it gets you flying. If it gets you in the air and it gets you flying and you feel some kind of accomplishment, put on the assist. Do it. And as you get comfortable with this thing and how to manage it, take off the assists one at a time, right? And then that's the way you do it. Tonight you'll be seeing me demo with no assists. Let's see how I do it. He did teach a helicopter course. I should be able to do it. All right, so let's go take a look now, the roles and the operational use of the difference between the two. And so the one on the left is what we're taking today, and next week we'll take the one on the right. So the one on the left, the Dolphin, the 365, offshore oil rig transport. Emergency medical services, that should have been a bullet. Law enforcement, search and rescue, VIP executive transport. And they got liveries for each one of these, you guys. Border patrol and firefighting. Is like, wait a minute, firefighting? Can we use that in career mode? Yeah. So, that's VIP transport in career mode, SAR in career mode. So, we'll talk more about career mode. But yeah, this is exciting. And you'll see more and more native 2024 products that will be able to be used in career mode. You'll see more and more of that. And I've been mentioning this now for the last 6 months, and they're coming at us. And if they are native, you can probably, and it depends whether they flip the switch and whether you meet Microsoft's criteria, but typically if they're native 24, you can probably use them in career mode.
I believe it's actually up to the developer.
Maybe so, right? But maybe the developer has to jump through some hoops, and that's why the developer can say no, right? But I agree with you, Andrew. They can decide. I would wonder why they wouldn't, because there's another whole crowd that would buy your product because it can be used in career mode, and more people want them. That's one of the biggest complaints on their list from Microsoft is why can't we have this thing in career mode? Why not? So they don't understand why.
Because the developer
right?
doesn't want you to.
Probably, yeah. And then, you'd want to ask the question, Andrew, is why wouldn't they?
But then, if you're somebody who wants plane X badly enough to go to Microsoft to say, why can't we have this in? You probably bought the silly thing already anyway to have it in free flight. So. And
then they like it, and then they want it in career mode. So, they just don't understand the mechanism, and we don't either while we're bantering about. But anyway, so the HH-65A Dolphin is next week, you guys, and this is the U.S. Coast Guard. It's funny that they actually made the orange one, which is typically Coast Guard colors, probably Canadian Coast Guard colors. I'm just used to them. Typically red and yellow kind of stuff. But it's interesting that they show this one on the right side is, I don't think this is really showing you specific variations. It's just giving you different variations. But anyway, the U.S. Coast Guard one does come in a number of liveries and a number of colors. Short range recovery, primary maritime search and rescue, law enforcement, and drug interdiction. And that's probably where I saw them in the preview video with them with a gun in their hands. It's like, what? I thought it was search and rescue. It's like, there it is. It's like,
Well,
that's not a rescue.
on your Dolphin list there, the only thing on there that wouldn't be actually armed is the 2 search and rescues. Because the Coast Guard would be armed, law enforcement would be armed, and so would drug interdiction.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What's a Coast Guard cutter, Andrew? It's operated from shore stations and Coast Guard cutters.
Coast Guard cutter is a Coast Guard ship.
There we go.
Like
see?
If you see if you're in Florida and you look out to sea and you see a Coast Guard ship going by, they call it a cutter.
There we go. See? And so 2 variations of this. We're going to learn it well. We'll separate the 2 of them. And, between the 2, I mentioned 59 liveries. Holy smokes. Like, look at that. I think this one only has 50 on the page. I missed the other 9 over here. I should put them here. It's probably higher than that now. It's been out for a week. So it's like, pick your color, pick your role, it's like, woo, one of those. We're getting
It's like pick your color and then pick your trim. Because that's pretty much what it works out to. You can have a white one, a red one, a blue one, a black one, or a yellow one.
And then
what other colors do you want on it?
And then see if it's got the roles that you want, right? So we're going to look at a matrix for that in a minute, you guys, yeah. All right, so let's go take a look, you guys. Let's go do a walk around, our first flight demonstration, split it up. We don't want to talk all day. We want to get in there, right? So let's go. We're going to pick up the A365. I think this is the executive transport one. Doesn't matter at this moment. I'm not going to use any of the SAR functions, etc. And what I want to do is just go in to configure it just to see what it looks like. And there we can get an idea of the variations. And you can see down here the search and rescue. You can see over here utility. I think I tried this one first in some of my pictures that I took. And then here, like you can see the difference right here already. There's what looks like the same exact picture. And it says this one's the HH65B. This is the HH65A. Interesting, huh? And the middle one was an A365. And then you look over here. This one's also search and rescue, but it's the 365. Right, so this is where people go, okay, wait a second, which one should I use? And when I go to career mode, which one should I? So this is where the confusion lies, right? So we're sticking with just 365 and all of its variants for tonight, all right? This is the one I have right now, the VIP transport. What's a Hytron? Anybody know what that is? This is the 65B Hytron, H-I-T-R-O-N. All right, all of you scrambling with Google right now and chat. Passenger transport, utility, and search and rescue. So this is, I'm just looking at variations so far, and then you get into liveries. So you pick your variation. Of course, you guys know how to do this in the sim. And
okay.
Then we go in livery and start figuring it out from there.
It stands for Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron.
Wow. And then after saying all that, we still don't know what that means.
It's an elite armed aviation unit of the United States Coast Guard based in Jacksonville, Florida.
All right. So we'll have to fly it out of there. All right.
They specialize in airborne use of force and drug interdiction, operating by using precision sniper fire to disable engines of high-speed smuggling craft.
No kidding. Precision. Oh,
read that to mean they have a guy sitting in the side door with a .50 caliber.
And he's got sniper capabilities, yeah, which is hard to get, you guys. I had to work hard at that when I was in the service. But, and I never had to use it in real life, thankfully, when you get that kind of certification. But, that's precision shooting, you guys, and taking into account everything from wind to the weather, even the humidity. Anyway, CXC is where we're going. We're going to Chitina. We can make a song about that. And this is actually something we've been using for years. Believe it or not, here in 2024, our scenery didn't work anymore. So Dane Simair stepped in and made us a new one, and that's what this is. This is the new Forder Resort sitting on this island. If you don't have this scenery, you've got an island here with nothing on it, no bridge. So we'll come over here. You'll notice he also added the dots on the runway so we can do precision practice. You would still see this airport if you don't have my scenery, but you won't get the dots either, of course. And there's probably stuff missing over here, buildings and stuff. So anyway, pick a spot. I'm just going to pick maybe over here in the corner, a parking spot, cold and dark. You guys, we're going to start cold and dark. We are going to start up just using Control E. We want to go take a look at it for a while. Yeah, CertiDev, I mean, that amazes me too, even though I've been trained at that sort of thing back in the day. In a moving vehicle or a moving helicopter or a moving anything, as soon as you're moving, there goes one variable that it's so precise, you guys, that you've seen the movies, they take in a breath before they squeeze the trigger. I mean, and they squeeze the trigger gently. Believe it or not, all of that has to happen because anything that makes a vibration or makes a movement, even your breath, can change what happens when you pull the trigger. So, I mean, in a moving helicopter, they did that kind of precision. That just, that's a skill. But, that's a skill that's probably not transferable, though, in the civilian world, right? The person who drives tanks comes out to the civilian world when they retire and they go, yeah, I got to get a job. I can't get a job driving tanks. So what am I going to do? So you got to think about what you did while you're in the service that you can transfer back out when you get out. For me, it was electronics, right? So I was electronics certified going into the service. I did electronics in high school. I was electronics certified in college after the service. So luckily, I came out of the service with some kind of trade, right? You go in as a long-haired hippie with a guitar and you come out with a trade. I think it's a good deal. I think every home should have one. All right, let's move over.
A long-haired hippie with a guitar?
Yeah, that's right. I think every home should have one. No, the career, the trade, yeah. Everybody should have one of those, yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point, Paul. He does the same taking pictures, you guys, when you think about it. Now, I would say, Paul, in defense of that, you're picture taking, a lot of cameras nowadays have stabilization features, right? Auto gimbals and stuff, maybe. I don't know if you do, but I'm just saying some of them do have that, certainly for video, to try and reduce a lot of that vibration when you're following somebody. But, you know, I don't think they have auto stabilization in guns. I've never heard of such a thing, but maybe, you know, I haven't kept up with guns. I haven't shot a gun since the service. Could be 30 years ago, could be 40 years ago. Definitely not the same level as a sniper. Yeah, with a camera, because if you miss your shot, then you just take another shot. Right? Like, let's get off that topic. So what do we have going here? We've got all kinds of controls set up. We're going to get into that in a minute, you guys. I'm not turning the head tracker on, but I do have some controls where I can look around. And it shouldn't have been running. I thought it was in a cold and dark spot. I want to get out and look at the thing, so I'm surprised. I've done this so many times this week now that I'm just surprised that I'm not. I guess it's a helipad, right? That's why it worked. All right, let's pick a non-helipad, just a parking spot, like maybe in this hash mark. Yeah, there's a parking ramp there. Oh, the outer ones are helipads. That's what it was. Okay, yeah, I remember now. Fuel box. There's some parking back here by the garage, by the hangar. So we'll just pick one of these guys here, and we'll go there. Eye tracker. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I'm not using it right now just to reduce vertigo in the community viewers. I have watched streams, you guys, where they have the head tracker on, and when a person is streaming, we've got screens and we've got chat and we've got controls and stuff, and it's like every time, like even now, I just thought about it for a second. Every time you move, people are watching screens that are doing this, and the people are really, they can take about 10 minutes of that. So unless they're, and I've tried this, you guys, I've done some streams where I've got the tracker on, and I'm going to not look at chat, and I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to look on my controls, and I'm going to try and keep it steady. And sooner or later, something happens, and I got to look over there, and all of a sudden, whew, and it's like, you know, when you're a streamer, it's tougher. It's tougher. When I do it alone, I have it on every time. But, you know, we don't worry about that right now. So what I did was I just got rid of the pitot tube, you know, normal stuff, you guys. Got rid of the blade covers, the protectors on the blades to hold them in place so they don't move. That's one reason. The other reason is so people don't hit their head on them. And then the other thing you got to do is the engine covers. And let me just take those off and just walk around. So it started us on this side. Typically, and some have asked me this, why does this one start us on the right side when other ones start us on the left side? If you look at the POH, which we don't have, we've got the elaborate document made by Taog's, but if you look at the POH for this, for any aircraft, they'll have a walk-around pattern, an overhead diagram drawing shows you where you should start and how you should go. In this one, it's clockwise starting from the right side because that's where the pilot seat is. Pilot seat's right here. Now, if I open that door, that's funny, I open this door and that opens that door. Okay, so if I open that door, this is where the pilot would sit, of course, in a helicopter, and conventional helicopters are the most of them. And so that's where you start with your walk around. In conventional aircraft, in conventional fixed wing, you start on the left side and you go counterclockwise around the plane. An exception to this would be some of them that only have a door on the right side. All right, some of the low wing fixed wing planes have an exit here only. So this is where you start, right? Anyway, we'll just do a quick one because we're not going to spend the whole session walking around, but I want you to have a look and appreciate this beautiful aircraft, the finish of it, the function of it. And if I had my volume turned up for the sim while I'm walking around, I'm going to do that so that we can hear some of these effects. I think that's coming through to you. I'll turn it up a bit more just so you can hear these things. I mean, just amazing. And you know, I know they're simple things, you guys, but they help with the realism. I'm just crouching down to take a look at this. When you look at this kind of detail, you guys, in a normal walk around, you'd be looking at this. You'd put a few fingers there to see how much spring space there is. And you'd be looking at tires, you'd be looking for leaks, you'd be looking, you know, all of this stuff that you normally do. This is retractable tricycle gear that we're looking at here. Then looking at the finish, you know, you're looking at rivets to see if they're loose. You're looking at making sure panels aren't falling off, you know, baggage door, typical kind of stuff that we're seeing nowadays, which we're getting used to. We're used to having aircraft that are really well done. Here's something I want to point out. Let me just stop crouching down here. If you take a look, it's probably better to look down this way because that's where the sun is. You look down the finish and you'll see it's more of a beaten finish. It's not one of those straight out of the computer CAD program perfect finish. You can't see it. Oh, you see some of it right there. See how that's not a perfect finish? That's typical. That's what a real thing looks like. That's harder to do. And that's what the developers have done here. And I'm not, I don't know these people personally. We just happen to know the reputation of Taog's is always high. So we expect that it's going to have something like this. That kind of detail. There's no dipstick to look at like in some planes or like an A2A thing. But that kind of detail is like, wow. I don't even have to find a picture of it. There it is. There it is. And, if you look at pictures, you can find pictures online of these things and just go, wow, that's really modeled well. Do we have to do anything more with it? No, but there's some people that just like, whew, how long did it take them to do all that? I'm just trying to find the click spot to close it now. Probably somewhere around here. I'm just on the wrong angle. Let's get up close. There it is. I'm going to close it because I'll get around to the back and I'll miss it. And, again, something like this. Probably to open up that shroud. But take a look at this, you guys. If you looked at this I'll show you from an outside view you can see the ones sort of on the other side. Both of these each one is one engine, and you can see the other one's over here and pointing a bit of an angle off to the right. The exhaust from these things. And we'll look at the front of it too. And you'll also notice when we were at the side, look at the size, look at the angle from the rotor blades. Isn't that interesting? That's the at-rest angle. And you're going to actually need a lot of aft stick as you get going, or else even as you give it more collective, it'll start moving forward, right? And then you look at the back, we've got the horizontal stabilizer, and there's the famous Finestrin 11 blade tail rotor, shrouded as they call it. And very famous. You see that in a lot of the H135, 145, I don't know all the different versions, but you'll see them there. Hey, Charlie's in the air. And then as you go around, you can also open that one up. I'm going to leave it for now. We're just going to get back in it. But that just gives you an idea. Maybe we can see the finish from this side because it actually is pretty impressive. And that's one of the things I look at when I start looking at these products. It's like, how realistic have they made the finish? And this is just way up there, you guys. And then looking in is like, wow, look at all that. So very distinctive design, beautifully done. I mean, gone are the days when we look at the rotor blades and see them tilted upwards, like as if they're already flying. Have you ever noticed that, you guys? Or while you're flying, you'll see the rotor blades are still curved downwards. You ever seen that before? We have. We've seen products like that. Hey, someone else has got one over here. It looks like Charlie's plane. Is that you, Charlie, there? Yeah.
That's me. Yep.
Cool. Anybody else with me here in the field at CXC? Come on down. Let's go fly.
He was around somewhere flying the helicopter.
Let's go fly.
I don't see him now.
All right, let's go close the doors. I just want to make sure we don't hit our head on the blade. That's why you shouldn't take that off until you're ready. We got ourselves a raid. How's that going? I can hear it already. That's another change, you guys. I never heard the raid sound before. I forgot I put it in years ago. Murph, hey, that is so nice of you. Wow, that is so cool. 106 of you came over. Hi, viewers. Hi, raiders. Welcome. And, hey, we're having a look at this baby here. You've seen this already on Murph's channel. He's had this baby out a few times. So you probably can help us with things that we don't know. You know what I mean? I can only do so much research, but you guys who have seen it already can tell me stuff that Murph has already uncovered. But let's go jump in and get her started and get rolling, you guys. Welcome, you guys. If you can't stay long, by all means, do a follow. Come on back later. Take a look at VODs if this isn't a good, convenient time. You guys might have been at it for a while. This is the VIP version, you guys, and you can see inside. We'll go inside, actually, with drone camera. You can see inside this is really well decked out. You're certainly not looking at a military version here. Military don't get that kind of luxury, you know what I mean? Well, maybe the generals do, but, that's how it goes. Anyway, if you don't have your Xbox controller to look around like I did, you can certainly use your keys on the keyboard. Typically the shift keys. Sorry, I'm turning away from the microphone. Shift A, S, D, E, W, Q. So that group of 4 keys, you can move around and all that. All right, I'm going to inside with a Shift C. I think all the covers are off. And from inside, this is the default view, you guys. There we go. And we're going to start looking around. But let me just see what the back looks like first. And then we'll do the normal stuff. We're going to do a quick start up here. Oh, and this one, you can't even walk to the back. You can only talk to the VIP people, you know. You just can't get there from here. They have their own doors, you know.
That's a pretty fancy seating.
It is, yeah. It's like 5 people here. This one's a flip up too, so 6 people in the back here. But you know, why crowd it? I mean, nobody wants the center seat, right? I will say, you guys.
I've got 8 in mine.
I will say, you guys, I've got seat belts that are done up when they're not being used. That's how it should be. When any aircraft leaves the ground, anything that can move can hurt, you know. And I'm really impressed that they actually do that. Those developers who do that to their planes. Even here, they're done up before you get in. Look, that's important. A little detail like that is very important. Now, this might be intimidating to some of you. If you've been flying helicopters before, then this should be nothing new. I'm going to show you how easy it is to understand this. Take what you know from other helicopters and apply it here with some extra features, and we'll see how that goes. So, okay, Mrs. TPH, thanks for that. You didn't hear the raid noise. It came through to me loud and clear. Wow. Okay, it's actually a raid siren. And I remember the first time it happened on our stream years ago, after I inserted that sound effect, Dougal actually said that he jumped up from his chair and he started looking around where he is because, you know, that's in his blood, you guys. When you're an ex-military person and you hear a raid, it sends chills through you. So, you know, I tuned it down. I took it down about 2/3 of the volume. And now for some reason it doesn't seem to be coming through. It's coming through to my ears. I'm not sure why. I'll go take a look later and I'll troubleshoot that. And it's just a routing thing, so I'll figure that out. So let me just take a quick look here now at the normal views, you guys. It is in the document, but that was the walk around. What I'm going to do while we're here is I'm just going to start it up, not with an elaborate startup, you guys. You can look at the checklist for that later if you wish, and it is good to always go through it once. All right, but during this startup, you're going to see all kinds of annunciator lights go on. You're going to see all kinds of needles start moving, of course, on the engine instruments. You're going to see rotor RPMs happening. So, you know, things will happen. It is actually good to do an auto startup and just see what's going on. If you do it manually once in your life just to see what it's all about, take the time to do that. When you do the auto start, you'll understand what's going on. All right, you're going to see one engine starting up, the needle's rising, the other engine starting up, you'll see NG happening and all, you know, all the things that are supposed to happen. Remember that if you'd like to see that in action, we did that last week. We actually did a complete startup from scratch, and it took quite a while. And it actually makes the lesson go too long. All right, Control E. Sounds good already. Should be a rotor starting to move. Look at that already. Some of them, they don't start the motor, the rotor until later. I'm going to turn that down now. It does sound good though, doesn't it? I got beeping in my left ear. I got engines whining in my right ear. I mean, this is awesome. I want to just crank it up and listen to it. But as you can see, annunciator lights are going out as things get started. You take a look at some of the meters here. We're seeing the left engine starting up. You can see it rising up and then back. You can see up here, this is an important one also. I've captured these in my presentation, but it's better to see it live, you guys. You can see in here, engine number 1 is heading up. So's the rotor. That's the rotor needle right there. There's engine number 1 coming up too. These will probably go out of scope and then rest back in here in the green area. They typically do. Yeah, that one's almost at the edge. Sometimes they go up over to here, but only for momentary. Now this one's starting up. All automated. I know it's loud. Better turn that back a bit more. And and now you see the second engine's coming up. When they're done, all 3 will sit here. There's something in my coffee, you guys, because I didn't have a throat problem till now. Pardon me. I think that's grounds for changing my coffee brand. Yeah, that's what that is. All right. Nothing on the annunciator. Are you kidding me? That's good news. And we've got 2 good engines. We got stuff happening. And here's our normal screen. Look at that. That's what we're going to be looking at as we go along. Now, today, before we're finished, we're going to be using some of this autopilot panel right here and understanding how that works with proper bindings. All right, we'll be looking over here, and we'll be looking over here, and we'll make some things happen. This is telling me my gear is down. That's very reassuring while you're on the ground. And many of the other things we might not even touch. You know, I see something here that looks very familiar. something here that looks very familiar. So what we've got is a 750 vertical, 10 inch, and we've got the 650 horizontal over here, the 7.5 inch version. And those are separate lessons in themselves, you guys. All right, we got a humming machine. I'm going to turn that down a bit and take a look outside. Boom. That's why I wanted to turn it down. I knew that would blast me away. What a beautiful looking helicopter this is. And look at the size of the hump on the top, right? With these two big, powerful engines. There's screens on the front. I meant to show you that while we were doing the walk around. There is sunshade, tinted glass on the ceiling. And this thing, remember, it can go high temperature, high altitude, and away we go. And there we go. We're started and we're ready to go. All right, let's come back. That's the walk around and startup. That's all we're doing for that. I'm going to just fade that into the background for a minute and let it burn off some fuel while we talk about a few more things. So for those of you who'd like to join us, we're at CXC. That's the airport. That's up in Alaska. That's where the resort is, the Forder Resort. That's where we're at. And we could even go in and do a touchdown or a landing at the Forder Resort afterwards, where you can actually see the classroom. All right. So the 3 view, I put this in here for Super Thai, and I always joke about it, but really it's for everybody. Seeing the view like this, it really gives you a feel for what the helicopter looks like. And it also gives you an idea about dimensions for those who want to know the dimensions. Let's come back here to the classroom here. So I'm not going to dwell on this stuff. Just the features of this helicopter: 4-blade, clockwise rotation from the top. The fact that it has wheels, and I'm serious, I mean, it almost sounds funny, like, oh, Howard said it's a feature. No, it's like a lot of helicopters we look at, they just have a rail on the side, and there's no suspension whatsoever. You notice even in training in the R-22, we've just got, skid height. We got these skids on the side that have no flexibility whatsoever. We put that helicopter down hard, we feel it in the seat of seat of our pants. So here with these tricycle gear with suspension, this thing can come down hard if it has to, or come down hard on a deck of an aircraft carrier, or come down hard on the deck of any aircraft or any boat that can take it, or ship that can take it. And that's a good thing, you guys, because there are times in emergencies when you aren't bringing things in gently, All right, so here's what it looks like when you pick it. You already saw these screens. I put these in here for reference for those who do go and grab my PDF afterwards. You get all of this reference in here. But here's some of the stuff you don't get from the live look at it. Here's what's under the covers. Now this one is the 365N2 that we're looking at right now tonight for this lesson. The next page will show you the engine that they're using in the HH65, and we'll go take a look at that in a second. But this is the best one I can find to let us see what that looks like. This is the air intake over here on the left side coming through here. You can also see they've painted it so you see the combustion chamber, and here's the air intake at the back and all of that, and then the exhaust that gets pushed out the back. So it's kind of interesting when you see these things in action. Here it's just a picture, but it gives you an idea. Now take a look at inside the sim compartment door and see what that looks like. We were actually looking at the right side. This is actually would be what it looks like from the left side of the helicopter with the air coming in from the left. This is single stage there's a single stage axial plus a single stage centrifugal. In here, take a look at some of the temperatures and the power output. All right, and thanks, Charlie, for that. When you were doing the proofreading, I forgot to put kilowatts in there. Varies. This specific engine, very popular, thousands of them made for different helicopters. You can see here, this can vary depending on the helicopter, but this one produces 737. I saw one stat that said it produces 735. Okay, what's a couple of horsepower when you're up into 700, right? The Robinson R88, you guys, very popular, newest version of the Robinson family, uses the same exact, I mean, there's something there. If many helicopter manufacturers use the same engine, there's got to be a good engine. And the Sikorsky S76, very popular also, I think in career mode I've flown that. It looks very familiar. And then these ones too, of course, in the sim you can already fly these things. So you can look at some of those things. But anyway, that's the idea behind it. It's just a brief on what's under the hood. These are the powerful things that power the helicopter, and there's 2 of them. And we'll have a picture of that in a minute. Here's what's in the HH65 Dolphin that we are going to be looking at next week. Very different looking engine if you take a look at this. And there's, you can see the air intake all the way around. This one's found in the air tractor AT302, not the 802, the 302, the earlier version of that. And the Bell 222 we already have in the sim. The Piaggio 166, we took that last week. And the Eurocopter AS350. So, you know, it's like they're using engines that are used in many others, and of course they work well. This has 700 horsepower. Now, why would they change differently? Well, this one was under contract to make for the U.S. Coast Guard. That's this version. That's what we'll be taking next week. So I wanted to show you that there is two different kinds. Now, Lycoming actually was taken over by another company now too, but Lycoming is a very common name in engines. You look at all the Cessna line and all the Cessnas I've been flying all these years in real life, and we had to understand that engine inside out in case there was troubles with it. And Lycoming has been making engines all their years. All right, now we're going to get into the important stuff. Everything up to now has been informative about this helicopter, where it is, where it belongs, what it is. And now we have to start configuring it for our sim. This is a picture of my setup. You may not have all of these, but the most important ones here near the bottom. All right, so I would say the most important, of course, is the collective access and VR toolbar. You may not even need quick replies for career mode. And then these are just quick views. Wow. So I've got more than that on here now because I've got a gear switch on there now too for gear, because it's a different gear switch. And you can just reach into the cockpit and click it with your mouse, but I've got a gear mapping on there now too. Now, I do want to mention this. I put this in here just for reference because there are some people who might be viewing tonight that have never configured a helicopter or know the difference between a collective and a cyclic. So I know that might sound strange, you guys. Some of you have been with me for years and you know the difference, and I've done tons of helicopter lessons. We know the difference, but not everybody does. So bear with me while I make sure that it's clear for everybody. The collective is typically the bar beside you. In real life, it's the bar beside your left leg. No matter which seat you're in, it's the bar beside your left leg that is pivoted at your hip and goes up to make the helicopter go up and down to make the helicopter come back down. All right, and what that does, it changes the pitch of the blades of the rotor at the top of the helicopter. And that's all it does. It changes the pitch of the blades. The governor keeps the RPMs going properly and all that. And all it does is change the pitch of the blades, which then would bite more air and take you up, or it would be more relaxed and let you come back down. So that's what the collective is. Whether you use, not everybody has a collective. You can make a homemade one like I did out of PVC, but most people will just use a throttle access or whatever you have for a throttle. Like on your Bravo, you might use one of those levers. And you'll figure out whether pushing it this way will make it go up or bringing it towards you make it go up or whatever. That's the hard part with using conventional throttles, but that's what this is, you guys. The collective access is for up and down. Now, we go take a look at the next one. Here's where a lot more settings have to be made. Next week, we actually add another dozen, you guys. We're going to add another dozen. This is why I'm taking it into two parts. So this is called the cyclic. This is your stick. This is the stick that you use to fly. You can use a yoke here in your home studio. You don't have to use a stick, but helicopters all have sticks. I don't know if there's any helicopter in the world that actually uses a yoke, but anyway, if you've got a stick, any stick will do. I've tested this on almost any stick you can think of, and I've seen them at expos with different sticks too. I was just looking to see if I had my T1600 nearby. It's also the T1600 Thrustmaster, the orange and black one, is great. It's a center spring, typical cheap stick. You know, I call them cheap sticks because you can take the spring out, I guess. But you know, it has a throttle travel right on the base of it, so you can control cyclic with your right hand, and you can control the collective on the throttle slider right there in one unit. You don't have to buy expensive hardware. So anyway, that's what this is, the cyclic, which makes you go left, right, forward, and back. All right, and you can see that I put that in here just so you know the difference. Lateral axis is left and right. I've put that right in line with lateral. Do you see that? And then the one below it is longitudinal, which means longitudinal is this way. All right, and that's what the difference is there. In some cases, you're going to have to click the button that says reverse the axis. You might find that as you're pushing, like to go forward, the nose goes up, and it's like, wait a minute, it's opposite. You know, it'll drive you crazy if that happens. So you want to make sure that's fixed. Okay, and you'll notice, you guys, just before we go off that screen, you'll notice that I start fresh when I do something new like this, especially in this helicopter. If you've got other things from before, they'll probably mess you up. You'll be trying to troubleshoot this. This is the kind of questions I've seen in the forums and the kind of questions people have been asking me. This isn't working for me. I set up my beep trim and it doesn't seem to be doing it. My trim release doesn't seem to be working right. And the first thing I'll say to them is, did you start with a fresh profile? All right, that's my first big and important recommendation, you guys. Start with a fresh profile. It's easy enough. You just click the gear and you say create new. You're making a new one. You're starting from scratch, and it's not hard to do these things. You just click in here and, you know, left hat, click in here, right hat, click in here, up hat, down hat. I can set this up in 5 minutes. If I want to take my time or read something to see what to do, it might take me 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But it's worth it. Do that, and you're going to have a richer experience, as they say. I want a richer experience, Howard. Yeah. All right, so let me tell you about a few other things. Let's see. Other than the 2-axis, the beep trim is very important, you guys, if you would like to do what all helicopter pilots do. In this case, you might have heard of beep trim before. It was even in our basic Robinson R22 session, where really in that one, really it just grabbed, but the beep trim did work, but it really did just grab the stick where it sits. Now I got a force feedback stick. If you push the force feedback stick forward and click on the trim hold, it'll actually hold it right there, like in the real helicopter. If you look in the cockpit of an R22 and you push the stick forward and hit hold, now right in the console in the real thing, in the real R22, there is an actual lever right there to hold your attitude. That's your actual hold. When you do that, in the sim, it shows the stick forward and staying there. When you release it, the stick will fly back. In your force feedback stick, it'll fly back too. And so it's pretty cool. So that's another whole dimension when you have a force feedback stick, you guys. And I'm trying to think of the company that just recently we're in talks of being a partnership so I can try some of their stuff too. Is it called Brenner? I think it's called Brenner. And we're in talks right now to find out you know, what products I can go take a look at there too. I've already got the Moses stuff, but you know, I'll certainly review stuff and write about it. And that's, you know, force feedback's becoming, once the competitors all do it, it's going to become a normal thing, you guys. All right, so I want to talk about 2 things here that you need to set if you want to do any of the trim stuff. You should be able to do trim stuff, you guys, at the very basic least. Very basic least, is that a thing? And so in this case, I'm talking about, I just added this slide. No one's seen this one yet, not even the proofreaders. But I added this in because it's so important. We want to be able to use the basic autopilot functions in this one. Next week, we're going to add way more features. But so we want to do basic autopilot stuff. So we want to be able to do trim release also. Even if you're not doing autopilot stuff, we want to be able to do trim release, set our new attitude with the cyclic, and then put it back on again. So we want to have an easy to use button, and it has to be set up this way. This is part of the confusion of a lot of people setting up this stuff. So what this is it is anything to do with the AS365. You're going to see it called the AS65. There's other trims you'll see in the sim, and I'll go there live and show you that before we get going. There's plenty of other trims, but you got to specifically pick this one for this plane, for this helicopter. And so there's 2 things here. So this is trim release, and it's got 2 different buttons for it, but the buttons are typically the same button, but 2 different setups for them. So there's one here called trim release press, and I'm using the button behind my Virpil head. Oh no, this one's the AB6 head, the grip. If I'm holding the grip and there's the fire button, the big red fire button, below it there's one single button on the back that I could just use my middle finger on. All right, that's my release button, because while I'm flying, whatever attitude I'm at, I need to push that button. I don't want to do that on screen. It's very rude, but you know what I'm saying. One of your fingers at the back that you can push that button. So I'm doing that for convenience because it's got to be on the cyclic while you're flying. All right, now you could reach over to the keyboard with your other hand and do it if you wish, but I'm making it more realistic. So it's the same button for both of these settings, but in here for the trim release press, I'm going to make sure the input repetition is on. I think that's the default, but I'm going to go in and make sure, like this picture. In the trim release, I'm going to make sure that the repetition is off, and I'm going to say set control on release. You see what this is doing, everybody? You've probably done this before. For those of you who've done it before, we're doing it again. And what we're doing here is the very first one, as soon as I push this and hold it, it's going to repeatedly send that signal out. That's what that's telling me. All right. When I release it, it triggers the release right there. That's what's happening on a single button. All right. So that needs to happen in this particular product, and that's the way Taog has set it up. They've figured out a way to do this that works. This works. All right. And this is where their real pilots test it and make sure it works. And it probably didn't have this at the start, and they had to make this happen just so that it becomes realistic. All right. Now, how do we find out about this stuff? Well, on Taog's website, they have the manual, which anybody can download. We'll talk about that when we get to step number 1 of our 7 steps. But they also have this key binding guide. This is a snapshot of it, you guys. And this gives you an idea of how elaborate it is. And this is more than 1 page. I think it's 3 full pages with a full matrix.
It's 9 pages.
9 pages with a full matrix. I'm only showing you 3. And it's a PDF that you can download and just make it work, right? And so here's a search in here. It says search in here, and you can search for specific things. And you can add more things. I'm giving you basics for tonight. We're going to go fly. We're going to control it. We're going to land it. Then we're going to take off and put on some autopilot, okay? So to do that, we got to have some of these bindings, right? So I'm showing you the stuff that we already figured out. Those key bindings, those basic key bindings, but the beep trim for sure when you're doing normal flying. Believe it or not, helicopter pilots fly completely on beep trim. I'm serious. They don't crank their cyclic anywhere. They just sit there with their cyclic and they're using their thumb on their trim, and they've got the 4-way trim. And that's really, you know, when you think about it, when you're flying a helicopter and you're setting your forward speed, now you've got your forward speed, you're going to still hold that thing. So in the in the smaller, less expensive helicopters, they'll just grab that trim where it is right now. They'll physically grab that, so it stays there. You saw that with the R22. With this one, it's beep trim, which is all electronic for everything, for left, right, forward, back. So you're beeping forward. Every beep will take you forward a bit more, and now I'm in the desired attitude for my helicopter as I continue on, and it just stays there. So eventually you want to release that. Now, what people are finding when they release it, it goes doing like this and almost straight up because it's drastic, right? So real helicopter pilots will move the stick back. They'll release, move it back, and then let go, and they'll find out that it's a nice, easy transition. So remember this. We're going to do more of that next week. Today, we're still going to do some releases, and you might see some bumps if I don't think about it ahead of time. But that's interesting. But a lot of that stuff, you guys, take the time to look in here. I know it's a bit intimidating, but this is the kind of detail that Taog provides. This is why we've been using their helicopters for years and all the different versions of the sim since they've been going, because they know what they're doing. If I were to take a guess, I haven't asked Taog how long this one took them. I typically ask developers that. And we could certainly have them on stream someday as a guest to ask questions, but I'm going to take a guess at the quality of this product and the depth that I'm looking at. I'm taking a look at probably a 2-year span, depending how many people were on the team making this product happen. If you think about it, you guys, you start programming and you do it for 2 years, and then you finally put it on the market and hope it sells. And I'm sure there's a break-even point, some point where it's finally worth it. And then after that, it's finally some profit. So, you know, that's a lot of work for a lot of people, and hopefully we'll like it, you know. I mean, I want you to just appreciate what developers go through, right? All right, so let's go take a look at the 7 steps, and then we'll go back in the helicopter and we'll do some basic flying first. We'll come back and talk briefly about autopilot stuff, and then we'll go back in the helicopter and do some autopilot stuff, all right? So first, the pilot's operating manual. Now, this is so elaborate. You'll see already I've been making references to it. There's so much stuff in this manual, guys. Now, Charlie, could I be right in saying 92 pages? Oh, it's right here on my page. I've modified it right here. It's 92 pages. I remembered correctly. I make the statement right here, there's no need to find a POH online. Now, Charlie and I certainly, Charlie's detailed oriented, probably more than I am. Being a pilot in real life, you have to read the POH inside out. You got to know it. I would typically, in many years, I've been going to get the POH because developer manuals, for a lot of developers, the manual just tells you how to get the sim working and what to bind. And it's 5 pages. It might be 10 pages. And that's it. It's about the sim version. Whereas POH is about the real version. That's what real pilots use. And it's thick and it's detailed. It's got performance charts. It's got everything about the helicopter. And you got to keep it legally in the aircraft with you. So I like grabbing the POH because it'll give me answers that the developer doesn't have in their manual. In this case, it's an exception. And I've seen a couple of these exceptions along the way, you guys. The Piaggio was another one, right? When I could name like 6 products that the manual was so good we don't need the POH. And this is one of them right here. This flight manual
the
here with
realism
its
that I
92
enjoy.
pages has everything we need. There's even performance charts. And when I say there's even performance charts, I'm not going to sit here with performance charts in our lesson because it's dry. You know, it's like, if you look at this chart, and then now let's go look at this chart. You know, it's one of those things where you just fade away, right? Or fade off to sleep. So we're just going to make sure we don't do that. But this has everything you need. You don't need the POH. They have done so much work on this alone, which is very impressive. In the actual aircraft, in the T-pad, they actually have this scan code, which now that I see when I blow it up, it's kind of blurry, but I should have cleaned that up. But this is, you know, this big inside the sim, inside the T-pad, and then I just blew it up so you guys can see it on the screen. But that's how you get the manual. So the manual you can have right now if you want it, just like I did when I wrote the article for Threshold. You just go here to Taog's hangar.com/manuals. All right, right beside me there. All right. And so don't forget to spell it with a T-A-O-G. When I first wrote this, I had T-O-A-G, and I was like, oh, okay then. It's right there, Howard, read it. It's right there. But in the web URL, you don't put the apostrophe in, of course, right? Briggsy! I'm running my new mixer, man. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I even got stuff like this, like, hello, 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 hello. You know, if I want it, if I really want it, you know, like the old fuel is my fuel. You know, I could play with audio all day, you guys, but I got all the controls at my fingertips, and it should be pure coming out to you guys. If it's not pure, then the source isn't pure. So, you know, anyway, yeah, I'm running it, and I'm loving the levels. And if you look at the landing challenge on Saturday, you guys, music in the background was in the background. Well, we'll say Thursday, because I first ran it on Thursday with it, my test run. And on Thursday, I had some music in the background, and then sometimes I had music up. The Saturday group fly, Saturday morning, I had the music up full when Dr. No Thumb was flying dangerously through the countryside, and then back down nice and soft at the right levels because we were talking and stuff. I mean, I had total control of every source, and it was just amazing. So I think, and on that note, I think on Thursday, you guys, I think I'll give you an insight on what that looks like without going through all the details, because it's pretty elaborate, and we'll just show you the magic that Mike has made for me to make it happen for me. So to give you an idea of what a professional setup looks like, this will be the same kind of setup you would see if you went to a concert hall, except they would have a lot more modules added on, the same exact software, same exact setup kind of thing, but no guitars in my case, right? They're in another room. All right, let me read. So it's great to hear from you, Brixie. Glad you're here. Sordida says, grounds, coffee, grown. And not a rim shot? Yeah, so my old little cheap mixer that was like $50 or whatever, it did have an area where you could save some sounds. So now I do have a program for that I haven't set up, or I haven't got it running right now. And I've got the rim shot, all that stuff is ready to go. So that's already set up, but I haven't ran it right now tonight. And Twig Dunn, great first time chat. Welcome. How you doing? Good to see you, man. And tell us, what do you fly? You know, what do you fly? Xbox, PC, PlayStation, and what kind of planes do you like flying? You know, I liked hearing that stuff from first time chatters. So thanks for speaking up and saying hi. Maddie Lynn says, are these the first 2 helicopters we can use in career mode that have autopilot function? I don't know if they're the first with autopilot. I took, I know for a fact I took the Huey in career mode, and I've done a lot of missions with the Huey, which is also a Taog product. But I don't know if it's a native Huey. I don't know if it's got autopilot even. I mean, I just flew it manually and did some rescues, right? Which was a lot of fun. But it's a good question, and it makes me think. Keep asking the questions, you guys. If I don't have an answer, I'll find answers. And then on a next stream, I'll mention it, right? But if anyone else knows, certainly speak up, right? Burberry, how you doing? First time for you too. Thanks for saying hello. And you know, I appreciate it, you guys. I encourage interaction in chat. I know it's harder to interact with an instructor in chat. I've been teaching courses online since 2000. We used to call it the Big 2000 Virtual Classroom, and I helped a lot of trainers come up to speed with teaching in a virtual environment, very different than a physical environment. And so this is nothing new to me, but this is the medium we use for gaming and for flying and all the rest. So I'm using Twitch. It isn't the best for interaction. You guys don't even get a whiteboard to interact on. Although maybe there's those things and I haven't seen them yet. But anyway, say hello and in chat and ask any question you want. We have moderators standing by. It is a family-friendly channel for those who are new, which means no profanity, no talk of religion, no talk of politics, all that stuff. Let someone else handle all that crap. Let's just, and I say crap meaning busy chat. All right? Don't be offended by calling it crap, you guys. It's crap when it comes to our hobby. And our hobby is flying and aviation, and that's all we do here, and we do it in a family-friendly manner. So bring your kids too. We got kids in the channel. We got kids in my courses, so we keep it family-friendly because it's just lots of fun doing this hobby, isn't it? All right. Huey does not have autopilot. Yeah, Iowa, thanks for that. I've never used it, so I can't remember ever using it. Yeah. Booberry says, I'm currently a major airlines maintenance. Yay, cool. Look at you. Ooh. You want to be a guest? Come on, tell us about what that's all about, you know. Sometime on the stream, it'll be great on a Thursday. Thank you for doing that. You're welcome. You're welcome. Just call me Howard. Yeah. Pilot Guy Jay. But aren't we so blessed? We live in this country to be able to fly freely. Got to give thanks first. Shot you a follow. It's going to be great. Well, thanks for the follow. That's great. Super duper. All right, so the flight manual. Now, you guys, I'm going to focus. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to focus on chat, and on Thursdays we'll focus more on chat because it's more of an open forum. On Tuesdays, I always go over time if I'm distracted too much, so I'm going to focus. So don't be offended if I move back to the lesson and stay on topic. All right, and so it's worth it to go get the manual, even if you don't have the aircraft. You guys, go get it, and you'll be able to leaf through it and go, wow. And when I explain some things, you can go look at those references and go, wow, you know. I'm not biased. When I read stuff, I'm still reading stuff. I got it sitting here on my tablet. I've been poring over this every night before bed, and sometimes it's like 2 hours before bed, reading this darn manual, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing, you know. So I'm sorting out the problems and then telling you the solutions. I mean, this is what's in it. What did we say? 92 pages, and it's 17 chapters, and it's got some hints in there for simmers too. So at the end of an elaborate explanation about something inside this aircraft, it'll say tip for simmers, right? And do this, this, and this, right? Oh, good, thank you, because that's pretty elaborate. So, you know, they're thinking like simmers, and they're getting their source from real pilots. So I mean, they've figured it out, you guys. They're not new at this. They figured it out. They've got a product that'll sell. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to write an article about it for Threshold, you guys, because I wanted to make that announcement. What I had to do, though, when I first wrote the article for this helicopter, I got so excited about it, I started putting in my own opinion. That's not a news story. And the poor guys at Threshold, they were like, Howard, this is an opinion piece. And so I had to get the editors to help me dumb it down on the parts that I was favoring Taog because I loved the product. I mean, I'm a simmer, I'm a flyer. And so I really loved the product, and I was writing that. It showed up in the article. It was supposed to be a news article. So the poor team at Threshold had to make it back into a news article, right? It's news. It's supposed to be news. It's supposed to be objective. It's not supposed to be how much you love it. So now on a Tuesday night, I can tell you how much I love the product anyway. So I haven't gone into all the emergency procedures, but it's worth trying an autopilot. Who was it in chat said they would try that for me? Try it. So we have checklists coming out our ears. We have it in the normal EFB. We have it in the manual. It's got all its sections right here. As you can see, I've given you a snapshot of that. We also have it on the T-pad. Where else did I see it? I don't know. But anyway, which one should we use? Well, you're going to see we just started the aircraft up automatically. Your first fly should be like that. Do Control E, let it all start up. Learn if you want what's going on, what's happening. But you want to get flying first, like we're doing tonight. Get it in the air. Get comfortable with it. Learn to land gently. All of that is so important. Too many streamers jumping into the most elaborate things. This is a cool feature. Watch this. And it's like, that's nice to know, but I just want to fly the darn thing first, right? So I'm giving you the fly the darn thing first. That's what we're doing here. So engine handling. Now, just think about this. This is section number 4, and then we'll get to the plane. We'll start doing some basic stuff. But Here's what, this is a really nice picture. And I actually made this picture with ChatGPT because I couldn't find a picture that wasn't royalty free. So I have to be careful on the channel, you guys, for my music, for my pictures, for everything. I got to make sure everything's royalty free or I own it. I could not have drawn this picture myself. I'm not an artist. But man, to look at this, it really is the first thing, the main reason I'm showing you this first is because there's two engines running in a common rotor transmission. That rotor transmission then drives the rotor shaft. And then, of course, there's all the other parts that make the blades move and all the rest of it as it goes around. I mean, this is, if you could see a video, a generic video of a slow motion of a rotor blade on a helicopter, you would see the blades actually moving as they go around every revolution. I mean, it's just fantastic how the engineers have figured this out. Theoretically, this kind of aircraft should break apart. There's so many moving parts and there's so many things that have to work right, or it'll vibrate itself and fall apart. And in fact, we've heard that in news last year, where a helicopter over New York completely fell apart. They're blaming the main transmission. You know, obviously, that's a maintenance thing or something. But you know, I'm not going to judge on what happened there. But obviously, that's the sort of thing they had to overcome in the years of making helicopters safer. They had to overcome the vibration aspect. They had to overcome the fact that the blades have to move. They have to flap. There's so much going on. But the point here, I love looking at all of this, but the point here is really the two engines. At whatever horsepower they are, their sole purpose is to produce torque on that shaft to the transmission. And either one of them can fail, the other one will keep it going. Let's try that. Let's reach up, kill an engine, and see how it performs. Let's also reach up, kill both engines, and do an auto rotate and hope we don't land in the water, right? That's the fun of the sim. Just go for it. Right? So in the engine handling section, I want you to understand this. Let's just take a look. We're not focusing on study level yet. We're just getting familiar. All right? This thing is certainly study level. Without a doubt. Not even borderline. This is full study level. Everything works. And when I say everything works, maybe there's something that somebody's going to find and they're going to say, but Howard, this switch over here doesn't work. And I say that, I'm mocking at you guys, and I say that because for some reason, people think that if one switch or one circuit breaker doesn't work, then it's not study level. You know, keep in mind, I've been teaching and flying for years, many years. I've been a pilot since the 90s. My background trade is teacher. And I'll tell you this, if you are going to a book to study something and then applying it inside this helicopter or this aircraft, you are starting to move into study level. If you are doing this, let's say this airplane is what's at your flight school and you're flying this thing all the time and you got to study it and you're practicing here, you're doing study level. So whatever that's blown up to be, study level means you can learn from it and you can practice what they do in real life. And we're doing both of those things here. So I don't care if there's a circuit breaker in here, it doesn't work. This is a study level, deep dive helicopter. And if you can master this, you should be proud of yourself. All right, in here, FADEC controls these two turboshaft engines, one row for each engine. Pretty simple how they lay that out. And you can see with the controls overhead too, you know, one for each engine. And the middle one is your rotor brake. Your rotor brake is only applied after engines have stopped. And there's just the spinning rotors. And they'll spin for forever until they finally slow down. Shouldn't say forever, because they will finally slow down. But you can use the rotor brake to finally stop them. And typically, when they're just spinning like that, you remember they're already drooping. And if you let your passengers out while they're drooping, they'll probably clip their head. You don't want that, right? So either you let them out while you're still fully running, because then they're up higher. In this case, most helicopters, they're built up high enough that you can get out of the helicopter, like when you're doing a safety or you're bringing people in or whatever. Or you do it when the blades are completely stopped. They'll be drooping, but they'll be stopped and people can avoid them. You know, it's a dangerous thing. So we have this rotor brake in the middle up top. Now, take a look here, obviously fuel gauges. Take a look here, the torque meter. We're going to focus in a little more on that one. And the NG gauges, we're going to focus a little more on that one to find out more about it. Down here, just below them, is all the mode selector for all the different modes. We're going to get into this before we finish tonight. That will be the last part of our flight. So that's our engine area, the main parts of our engine area. Let's focus in on this, the Delta NG gauges. Hey, pilot guy Jay, how's it going? But aren't we so blessed that we live in this country to be able to fly freely? Oh yeah, I read that before, right? Is that what did you post it twice? I hope not, right? I think I'm just reading the same thing again. ChatGPT drew that. It's amazing. Yeah, Paul, it did. I just told it what I was after. I said the focus had to be the 2 turboshaft engines on one transmission for the helicopter, right? It drew that for me. Yeah, it's amazing. So this is Delta NG gauges per engine gas generator instruments. I'm pulling this part here right out of the manual, all right? And, it says normal governed range. So pilots monitor the NG during engine starts. That's important. If you go through the checklist, you'll be watching this for specific things. For fuel efficiency and overall mechanical health. You glance at this, all right? It's in percentage. There's also some digits on each one. Both of them are equal right now. And you can see in here, pushing the test button tests the limit gong and light and displays maximum takeoff power at the present outside air temperature and pressure altitude as a digital readout. So this, again, you guys, this is why it's study level. In the real helicopter, if this didn't work, you'd go, how am I supposed to even practice this stuff, So that's why I'm calling it study level 2. So it's in. Torque meter too. This is important. You notice in here there's a 2, 1 plus 2 and a 1. You can change this down here. I'm making big diagrams so that I don't have to zoom in and go play inside the cockpit. I'm showing you some of these. Also, so when you download this PDF later, you'll have all these references that you can look at later, especially those key bindings, you guys, like, whew. Notice in here, key limits, 100% in hover and acceleration to VY. VY in this is it's right here, 75 knots. 88% continuous above 75 knots. And again, I make reference, you guys, because I learned all this stuff from Taog's Hangar manual. I didn't have to reference Google or reference the POH, which I typically do when I make a lesson. It was still a lot of work. And I'm only mentioning that because there are some lessons I can do in a couple of days and send it off to the proofreaders. This one right up to today. I mean, I sent first draft last night, late, to the proofreaders, and then today I just did another couple of hours of fine-tuning while I was flying. So engine handling, here's engines off. We're looking at rotor RPM here. Engines off, you'll see rotor is settling. So in this case here, the first engine had started up and the rotor. You'll see that right away when we were doing our startup. R is the rotor, the longer one is the rotor. It should settle back here into green. Here's number 1 engine that started first. Here we see number 2 now catching up while the other 2 are settling where they're supposed to. This is the governor taking care of making sure those RPMs are where they should be. And then here we see the second one coming up. And finally, when you're flying right now, we should see all needles aligned in the green. This is good. When you glance at this, if you've lost an engine, it's going to look like this as it's falling. And it's going to look like this when it's done. And you've got 1 engine to get you there, which can still happen, but you typically go and land at the nearest airport or the nearest place you can land, all right, when that happens. Because, what happens if your second engine goes? What if it's a fuel contamination or starvation kind of scenario? Okay, engine handling. Now, I'm just showing you this picture to show you why I'm separating the 2. We're not studying this today. This is going to next week. All right, and the reason I'm showing it to you is because it's a very different helicopter from the inside. The airframe's the same, even the engines change. They change the engines, they change the displays, they change their autopilot stuff, and they added extra features. So we're learning the basics tonight, we're flying it tonight, we're getting comfortable with putting it down gently where we want it. And we're going to do some autopilot stuff and some beep trim stuff tonight, but we jump into this thing next week. Look out! So come join us next week, you guys, so we learn more about the Dolphin. All right, so special features of the airframe, the 4-blade Starflex main rotor, which is not like conventional rotors, you guys. Fully articulated composite head without conventional flap or drag hinges is like it, and the maintenance becomes easier because of it. So that is not like the picture you just saw earlier. All right, this is the actual thing in the sim. You could get a more detailed one, of course, when you look at the POH, but we don't need to do that. You notice the rotor blades go way out there, and they're drooping, as they should. I'm saying that because there are some helicopters that doesn't work right. It's like, how did they even get past quality control? Here's the intake for one of the engines, and here's the exhaust for both of them, pointing out your typical, is this Airbus kind of design, where they've got that little lip on the bottom? That little pouty face, whatever you call it, and you can see that they're angled outwards, all right? There's 1 engine on the right, 1 engine on the left, and coupled in the middle straight up to the rotor. It's like amazing amount of power sitting up there above us. There is the Fenestron tail rotor, as we mentioned about. We talked about that already, so we're good. And the retractable, we already walked around the whole thing. Oh, this one shows the finish well. This is harder to do for a developer, to make this beautiful kind of realistic finish. Not that perfect with a perfect color all the way down. Look at all the different shades. I'm not a color person, I'm not an artist, but artists will say it's all about different shades of the color and different lighting, and that's exactly what we got here. Plus it's mirroring the tarmac beside it. I mean, it's just, does it get any more real than this, you know? Just amazing. So, special features, and Maddie Lynn, you'll want to know about this because the variants and the mission equipment that you need for them, this is the confusing part for a lot of people. I want to take this thing into career mode. What do I need to do, right? So mission equipment is fixed per variant. All right, so we're looking at, I want to do something with a cargo hook. So you can see in here, the utility one can do cargo hook. Search and rescue one, long nose, can't. This is important. I'm not going to go through the whole matrix, but I'm just giving you an idea how this works. All right. Utility one, long nose can, and all the rest can down here. All right. Let's say the Bambi bucket, you want to do some firefighting stuff. Again, utility can do the firefighting. Utility can have a water tank. And again, utility long nose can also do that too. Bambi bucket, for those who don't know, is the basket on the long cord, the basket underneath the helicopter that can be dipped into a pool or into a lake and pull out a bucket of water, a big bucket of water, take it over the fire and then release it. So there's a control to release it, right? So, you know, that's a handy thing to do. We've done that before with different products. A lot of fun. So this just gives you an idea, and an idea of the crew too. Now, I'm not sure why they're putting that in there, but you know, it's a fact. But obviously a crew of 4 for search and rescue. You've got 2 up front and 2 in the back or something like that. All variants can carry an internal cargo capability. And then, you know, then they're talking about here. The Hydron variant is cosmetic mission equipment only, no career mode or mission hub function. Wow. See, so this is good to know. You might go into career mode with this one. You might even buy this one if it's available in career mode and spend literally millions of credits on it and find out that you can't use it. It's like, wait a second. So, you know, just making sure you know. All right, so let's go down here to career mode to talk about it. So here we see the variant and the activities you can do. This is important. I know not all of you do career mode. There are some of you who haven't even flown in the sim yet. You know, you might even be X-plane and you're looking at this going, career mode. Yeah, I'm thinking of going in there and trying it out. And I think next week what I'll do, career mode takes a while. I have to do a whole session just career mode, you guys, just to set it up and get it and go there and come back and do all that stuff. I might make a video of it for you. I've got plenty of videos of career mode. I've talked about it at Expo. I've got millions of dollars now after all these years of doing career mode. But the point about it is that I will probably do a mission next week in Say Intentions, where we'll go do a search and rescue with the thing with a hoist. All right. So we'll do that in Say Intentions. I can just do it anywhere in the world that I am at any time and just pick it and go. And I don't have to have credits. I don't have to spend millions to buy the thing. And I don't, you know, it's just so much easier. And I'll probably do it that way. Anyway, this is a good reference. This is, again, out of their book. I mean, this is, you know, and I want to make mention here. This is 16.3 from their book. There's so much stuff from their book that it's just, I got to just keep quoting as we go along. Now, they're also, so you've heard it works in career mode. I could have dwelled a lot longer on that. I could have shown you a bit more about that, but I'm going to leave that for another day. It also does the Miltech Mission Hub. We first heard about this Mission Hub back when, what product was it back in the day? And this is such a cool thing. They said we can make our own missions, but here's some already for the current aircraft, whatever that was that we were looking at. Maybe Super Ty, you'll remember what that was. When did Mission Hub come out? We did a lesson on it.
Was it the MH60?
That sounds right. Yeah, the MH60. Yeah. We did a whole lesson on that, and we did the Mission Hub thing. So this hooks in. So they've been talking to Miltech saying, how do we make this happen in Mission Hub? They've been talking to Microsoft, how do we make this happen in career mode? And they've made sure all the code was there for that. So firefighting, search and rescue, cargo sling load, and all the rest. So way cool. All right, so let's get into this and then we go fly, you guys. So I want you to understand this part and then we'll specifically tell you how to make it happen. In fact, this screen isn't complete. They haven't got the coupler on or the flight director on. So this is still not completely autopilot. But you'll notice in here, the autopilot and the flight director maintain exact altitudes, headings, and vertical speeds. We're used to this sort of thing in fixed wing. We're not used to this sort of thing in helicopters. This takes the workload off. It's just another tool. Autopilot, GPS following with nav, all of these things that we do in fixed wing are extra things to reduce the workload on the pilot. That's what it is. It's another tool. So in this case, as you know, as many of us know, flying a helicopter is no easy thing. We take lessons, we learn, we practice, we get better at it, and we move up to bigger helicopters and bigger helicopters. Well, I'll say this. The bigger the helicopter, the more stable they seem to be. You fly a Robinson R-22, real pilots will tell you, if you can manage an R-22, you can fly anything. Because after that, they're more stable. So Mike can wear that badge, you guys. He was a student in our class. So was Charlie, Andrew, all the core team, ForderLearnToFly. We're all students of the helicopter series over 8 weeks. And now we can fly anything. But you know, as soon as you add this kind of functionality, now Taog or any other manufacturer that wants to make this for the sim has to be able to build this in the way it works in real life. That's a whole lot more code that they're simulating under the covers. So that's what we're seeing here. All of these switches do work. These lights on tell us that both lanes are working. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But in real life, it's called the CDV85 coupler / flight director. And they've devoted a whole chapter to it in the Taog's manual, you guys. Now, a couple of things you do need to know about. Something here called that should say stability. Aha, Charlie, I missed it and so did you. It's now the stability right there behind me. Look, stability without the T. We have to pay attention to these things because someone will catch it and they'll get distracted. Howard explains stability. It's a new word, and so anyway, stability augmentation system is in a lot of things. In this case, it smooths turbulence and corrects minor rapid flight oscillations. Oh, I like that. So that's on. That's right here. And they also have ASE in here. So we're going to talk more about that as we come to it and start using it. We're going to do this before we finish the session tonight. All right? Right? We are. We don't have much lit. Holy moly, is it really that time already? Okay, so let's go. So in the Dolphin, a very different screen, a very different set of stuff. I mean, holy smokes, you guys. I've done some of this stuff already. I'm leaving it till next week. So that's what we're doing. All right, the integrated T-pad is up here on the dash. Flip it out and do stuff with it. The autopilot, somewhere in here is user guides, and the live map, the doors, the hoist, the cargo, the cockpit. Like, this is great. And the one thing I couldn't figure out, and I've eventually found it, right up here, there's a power button right up here. For those of you wondering how to put it back, I flew the first two test flights with this last week with this thing showing because I kept clicking everywhere and I couldn't put it back where it belongs. There's a little power thing right here, and probably in the manual it tells you about that. All right, flight demonstration, and we come back and do autopilot, which I could probably just continue on and show you. All right, let's come over to this screen and let's go fly. Get back inside and change it to default. Now what I'm doing, I'm looking over at my keyboard. I'm going to put it on my lap, and what I'm using is just the standard keystrokes, you guys. And the orientation for this, the standard keystrokes are Shift Spacebar, gets us back to this view. All right, and then any of the others, we'll see it in the documentation, but I'm not going to drag you through the pictures. But if you do Shift 1, it takes you in to look at engine instruments and part of your flight instruments. Shift 2 takes you over and you can start working here. Let me just leave that on map maybe. And you can also take a look at some of the other functions that you can hit. From here, I typically grab my right mouse and move it. And in this case, while I'm demoing live on stream, my right mouse is not doing anything. Great. So then I reach over to my Xbox controller and just use that to move around. All right, fine. So usually the right mouse will do it. And that's how I typically use the autopilot panel also. All right. Now, let me just put this back to a normal view. Of course, the right mouse button won't work when you need it. Shift 3 gets you to the center console. And of course, there's the 650 there also. The horizontal 650 is there handy for comms. And then if you do other shift ones, this is the only one I haven't investigated yet, back at the very back of the center console. Looking up, a Shift 5 will get you up here. You're going to need the rotor brake eventually. You'll need to cut the engines eventually. And then this view here, someone else is here with the 365. Nice. And I don't think any of the other ones do much. There's a Shift 7, etc. But anyway, Shift 1 is important. Shift Spacebar. All right, so those two for sure. Shift 1, shift spacebar. All right, and then while you're here, use your hat switch for all your views. That's what I'm going to do to fly. It's very hard to fly like this, but I'm going to do that. And at times, I'm just going to pop out and show you this view. Again, shift spacebar, get you to that kind of view where you can see your attitude. All right. And there's someone taxiing out already. I'm going to take off vertical from here. Today, I'm not using say intentions. I'm focusing, and we're already limited time. I'm going to focus on flying. So the first thing we want to do is get into a hover and then look at our instruments, you guys. That's typical in any helicopter. All right, I'll get rid of the keyboard. I've got my cyclic in hand, my collective in my left hand, and I'm about to lift up. I'm going to actually turn on the input viewer. Is I think here? Yeah, maybe this is it. I forget the icon looks like. No, that's the Mission Hub, Howard. Okay, then. Here it is. Sorry, sort of. It's similar. Right here. There we go, the input viewer. I'll leave it over there. So when I move the collective, you can see the bars over on the left. I'm moving the collective up and down. Not enough to take off yet, but there it is. There's the collective. As I move the cyclic back, forward, left, oops, right, and then left. I was ex-military, right? I know my left and right. And then that little X in the middle, you guys, what's that all about? And typically, I'm going to say typical trim that we've been using in other helicopter courses, that X would show you the trim. In this case, beep trim is not doing anything to that X right now. So no matter what I do with my trim. And then my rudder pedals, or my anti-torque pedals as we call them in the helicopter, there they are on the bottom. So now we can see where all of them are. When I take off right now, if I do just collective, it should drift forward. All right, so let me just show you that. And it's not so bad for taxiing. I'm just going to pull up on the collective. I can see it starting to spring up a bit. I can see them light on the skids, as they say, but in this case there is suspension, so up it comes. You can see it starting to rise, and look at it go forward. Now I want to stop for a second and just show you. Again, I'm just going to go forward. This is important, you guys. You got to be able to taxi around. Look at that. Just using my pedals. It's working. And I'm falling over. So I'm just going to stop it and let it settle because I'm just watching from the side. I probably gave it way too much torque. And so that's how we get moving. So now if I want to take off straight up, it's obviously, as I give it more power, it's going to start moving forward right into the runway. So I'm going to pull back on my stick to start with. I'm going to give it some right pedal because of the clockwise turning rotor at the top. So typically, take a look in the input viewer up above me, typically a little bit to the right, and aft. So probably about there to take off. And I'm not saying it's exactly there for you. It depends on your stick and all the rest of it. But you've got to give it some aft to take off so it doesn't go forward right away and crash right into those trees. So I want to just start pulling up and see what happens now with those settings. And it shouldn't pull to the left or right. Is it going straight up? Yeah, that's pretty good. And if it's going forward, pull back a bit. And that's a good thing I pulled back a bit because someone's coming in. So I'm using this outside view to show you the attitude of the helicopter. I could even go side view, let you see what that looks like. And then I could even do, oops, top view. Now I hear something going on in the house, barks and everything. And so what I want to do, you guys, is try to stay hovering. Now I've given it too much power and I'm actually moving away. So I'm going to come back toward the airport. You don't want to be over the water. It starts getting distracting. Luckily, there's no wind, and I intentionally picked no wind today to practice. So I'm just using rudder pedals a little too much. I'm going to get back inside. It's easier back inside. Let me just come back around here. Forder Resort's over that way. Let's go there. So I'm going to push forward on the stick. I should start moving forward, using pedals to stay straight, and I'm moving. And here I can pull up the gear. I have a gear switch sitting on my collective now, and that gear should go up. Heading over towards the resort, picking up speed. Now, this isn't the best view for picking up speed. I see no instruments. As I'm talking about this, I'm going to overshoot the resort. But let me just show you. This is a better view right there. Because look at the instruments. I can see my speed now too. What am I at? 50 knots maybe? And I'm starting to get up some good speed. All right, so this is what I want you to do, is get into that hover first without talking and without being on a stream, and then trying to make it work like this. Now you might need to turn off. There might be some augmentation already on that makes it kind of jerk around. You might need to turn that off. So what I'd recommend you guys, and I'm just doing this gentle moves, trying to get a feel for the helicopter, make sure on here we don't have these buttons at the bottom are not green. That's good. These buttons are not green. All right, and there I am hovering. Now looking from above, almost stable. I'll pull back a bit. Now, this is where trim comes in, you guys. So I'm just using cyclic to try and stay in one spot. I'm not doing a good job. I'm going to pull back a bit so I don't go forward. Pulling back a bit more. The nose comes up and I stay there. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to try different things. Now, it almost seems a bit too jerky, but now what I want to do is try some beep trim. Now, the beep trim settings that I mentioned, it should be on your cyclic. It should be a switch that's nearby. There's one that's near my thumb, and that's what I've set. With the beep trim, watch the attitude of the helicopter change. If I can stay steady here, holy smokes. And I'm trying to get a view from the side, like that. All right, beep trim, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 presses forward. Look at the attitude change. Obviously, like that, it's going to pick up speed. All right, I'm going to adjust either the cyclic or the collective, but now I've got more speed and I don't have to hold the stick forward. All right, so that's beep trim. Look, I'm picking up more speed. I got to just make sure I don't hit the ground like that. And something was holding me, so I've got to make sure those things are turned off. Right now, all my lanes are on, so it's probably the augmentation that's doing that. We're getting towards some hills here, so I just want to turn around. But you know, the point about that is beep trim helps you to trim the cyclic, and then you don't have to keep holding it there. Just like in a fixed wing, you put on autopilot so you don't have to keep holding a turn, or you don't have to keep holding a climb. You're climbing up to 30,000 feet. You don't have to keep holding that. All right, so now it's still going forward. Look at the speed picking up. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to now reset, click and reset. And when I clicked on my trim, I pulled my cyclic back to center, manually, physically pulled my cyclic back to center. I'm going to get my right there. You can see the cyclic position up top here in the trim. And now I'm at a normal. My beep trim is now neutralized. Okay, I'm going to do that again from inside. I'm going to hold forward beep trim. Watch the nose drop. I'm just trying to keep it centered by left and right, but the nose is dropping. And there is some augmentation happening. I notice my trim X up there is actually moving when I move. Look. You see the X moving? So the helicopter is actually giving me some inputs to try and make it not so drastic. So I'm trying to do a drastic left turn right now, and it's actually fighting me to make it more gradual. And it's actually making it look like I know what I'm doing. Just have a side view here. I just want to see if my gear's up. Yep, my gear's up. So these are the things you should try. I'm going to bring my gear down. I'm going to go land. So you should go up and around and just do circles. And at one point I set autopilot so that it would just do circles. And I sat there for probably 2 hours, letting it just circle around a big area when I use the autopilot. Now I'll talk about the different autopilot features, and then we'll go do a demo with that. I'll come back to the airport for that. Just make sure nobody's coming in that way. It's very strange using the hat switch, but you know what? That's the way a lot of people fly. And now I'm just going to lower the collective, raise the nose, and just come in. My speed's decaying. My altitude is starting to descend. Can we land on the red dot? That one right there. No, I'm going to go over to the hash marks. And then, well, I did put the gear down. It just didn't take it. Come on, take the gear. So I might have to go inside and actually do it. There it is. Finally, it took 3 presses. Okay. And then while that was happening, I wasn't paying attention to flying. I was watching the gear because it wasn't coming down. Look at how it can get out of control, you guys. Focus, Howard. Focus. Now, I could have put it into a stable hover first and then played with the gear. Let me come back around. Mamma mia. So I pressed the gear switch that I have mapped for it 3 different times, and finally the 3rd time it took. So now I'm just wondering about that. Good thing I was looking outside. But you see inside the 3 green, I'm just going to focus on flying right now. Inside you see the 3 green arrows pointing down. Those are my gear, you guys. My 2 main gear and my front gear. 3 in the green, as we say. Now just coming into the hash marks here and put it down nice and gentle. Right about there. Boy, I'm overcorrecting, and it's abnormal to do that, but I see why, because I've got this view. I want to see all the instruments, and so now I'm looking straight down, and that's wrecking my view straight ahead. honestly, you guys, this is the proper view, but I still want to see some instruments. So maybe even there, I should make a new view like that. I still want to see forward speed and attitude. Actually, I want to see vertical speed. So even that should be the default view, so I can see some instruments. All right. So anyway, that now I can see the horizon. You should be looking there when you land. You should be looking there when you take off. Now let's talk about autopilot before we run out of time. I want to come over here to the classroom and just go back over there at the resort. Let's go back there and just talk about the autopilot parts. Now we do, first of all, we do have avionics choices too. I didn't choose those, but if you go to your T-pad and look at your cockpit area, you'll notice we've got the GNS 530, which I think is the default, and then the GTN 750, which I showed you already. I have in mine right now, which automatically gives you a 650 down further on the center pedestal, and then the TDS in here, the NXI 750. So we saw the views, and I think Srap put in a link to the Be My Tracker, which I use when I'm flying alone. Here we looked at some of these already. Here's a very important instrument down here, which again you can't see in the default view, your radar altimeter. This is pointing directly down to the ground at any moment that you're on. Now if I go off this runway and it drops down to the water, you'll see the radar altimeter all of a sudden jump 50 feet. And you just go, oh, something's wrong. No, it's a radar beam going straight down and hitting the pavement. And as the pavement drops off, it's now down hitting the water and instantly telling you what the altitude is. This is your precision altitude. This is your barometric altitude if your barometric pressure is correct. All right, so keep that in mind. Indicated here is typical for most flights. We're doing very close to the water, very close to the ground rescues. We need to have this kind of precision. You'll find that in most helicopters. The normal HSI, the normal radio magnetic indicator, or RMI, those are standard stuff. Airspeed indicator is the most important thing while you're flying. Rotor RPM glance once in a while. I'm surprised they put it at the very top. These three things should be at the top. Matter of fact, this whole panel should be at the top. Rotor RPM could be over in the side. You can glance at it once in a while. But and then if you hear RPM changes, then you can glance at it. But these are the important stuff for flying. And they're not in our face in normal view. All right. Let me come through these. I'm not going to walk through all of these. I'm going to get to the autopilot because that's what we're doing next. That's in the PDF for your reference, all the different views. And these are the phases of flight that you should be practicing. All right. I did a little bit of that. It was kind of rough. I noticed that SAS was working and it was counteracting my work. So I have to turn that off, and I'll show you the switch for that in a minute. Practice these things, and when you're done, go back up and do it again. All right. And keep doing it. And then start doing precision landings. I want to land on that exact spot. And, you know, obviously the where we are, the resort has all the dots. You can pick a dot and go do that. And then eventually, I'll show you right now. We'll go over and finish this off. We'll go land at the resort. Okay, so let me just go to the autopilot stuff. I'm not sure. Let's see. Take it further. Advanced AFCS testing. So this is your autopilot stuff, you guys. While you reference the manual. So you should actually read this. There's our SAS stability layer. They spelled it properly. And you notice it says damps low amplitude motion and reduces pilot workload, always on when AFCS lanes and channels are engaged. Right now we have all the green lights on, the 6 green lights. So the AFCS lanes are on and channels are engaged. SAS was fighting me while I was flying just now. You saw that with, I noticed the X now moving in the opposite direction of where I'm trying to move the cyclic. That was interesting. So you can flip that off. ASE is the attitude hold layer, and this is coupled completely with this coupled guidance layer. This is all explained in great detail. It might be new to you now, and we're in a lesson that will end soon, so we can't get into all this, but we do want to turn it on and show you it in action. All right. So here it is. I added the pages so you can see this. Here's the coupler and the flight director is both on. And in this scenario that I tested earlier today, I've got altitude hold and I've got heading hold. And this is where I actually just turn the heading bug and watch the helicopter go there. We know this with fixed wing. It's no big deal now. We're used to it, right? That's autopilot, heading bug. ATC gives you a vector, turn 165 and intercept the ILS. So I just put it on heading mode, turn the heading bug to 165 and go there, right? That's a vector. That's what it's for. That's what I'm flying in this scenario right here. at a set altitude, whatever that was. I think it was around 3,000 feet. And I was just using the heading bug on my normal heading HSI, the heading bug that you see in there. I'm going to show that to you live right now. Now, when we talk about the AFCS all being the lanes, here's lane 1, lane 2, and these are all to do with your autopilot parts. And you can see that all 3 are on, and you can see the letters that are on them. And also here's our ASE and our SAS, if you wanted SAS only without this ASE function. And you can see other switches at work here. But right now, the default is all on, and the default is this will work if you make sure that your CPL and your FD are on. So right now, I'm on the ground. I'm going to go here and turn both these on, go up in the air, and just simply try these. The AS is even better, all right? And we'll even try a VS and show you how that works, you guys, just to give you a feel for this panel to reduce your workload without getting into too much detail. All right, so let's go there. So I'll point out a couple of things while it's warming up here. Here's our RPMs all stabilizing now where they should be. Governor's taken over, everything's good. Numbers here look good for idle. Collective is sitting on the floor, and I'm going to pick it up in a minute. And then one other thing I want to show you is the flight director. When you turn on the flight director, it'll give us a horizontal and a vertical bar. We can't see that right now, so I'll just leave it off. Flight director can be used without autopilot or with autopilot, but what we really need to do is turn on CPL. And CPL is going to help us. I don't typically use any autopilot while I'm on the ground, but I'll turn that on just so you can see it's on. Now it's coupling all of these rows, these 2 lanes. It's coupling that with whatever we select here. So now it's coupled. So what we want to do, a couple of things we want to do, heading, altitude, maybe even airspeed, but heading and altitude are two important ones. And then also vertical speed to get there. So as an example, if I could turn it on right now, just won't let me turn it on, maybe because I'm on the ground. But what we'd want to do is set it over here just so you can see how this works. We want to climb, let's say we want to climb at 1,000 feet per minute. And you set the red arrow, and then you simply hit VS. All right, and that would normally light up. It would also normally light up here. So let's see, first we got to get ourselves up in the air and get working, and then we'll set that. We also want to be able to set the altitude once we get there, whatever altitude we want to set, any altitude at all. Once we get to the altitude, we want to turn that on. And then the heading bug is for the bug. Right now the bug's over here, but you can turn with this dial, you can turn it. You can also turn it with your hardware. I'm using my hardware right now inside my home cockpit. And my hardware also lets me press it to bounce up to where I am, my current runway heading. We don't have a runway in front of us right now. We just have the ramp. We're facing the school right here, and we're just going to go straight up. Behind us, I have to look down at my keyboard. Behind us, let's go back outside. Behind us is the water, so we don't want to go backwards into the water. We don't want to go forwards into the fence. Over here is the classroom. You'll notice in here there's some airplanes. There's also some whiteboards and some seats. This is really nice scenery. I like what they've done. Dane Simair made this for us for the ForderLearnToFly channel. You can see all the chairs in front of the whiteboard, 4 different stations for teaching sessions, and that's typically where we do it. All right, so let's just shift spacebar, get us to there. Backspace gets us inside. I'm just using standard stuff here. Now I want to take off. All right, so it does use SAS right now, so the augmentation system will be in place. If I'm trying to push through it, it might jerk the helicopter, so we'll see what happens here. I'm going to give it some collective. Oh, let's do the input viewer. Let you see that in action right here. The input viewer is handy for you to see what's happening with the helicopter. For instance, right now my collective is over there on the left. My cyclic on the right, of course, in all phases. And my anti-torque pedals. The pedals on the floor, which would be rudder pedals for fixed wing. All right, now you'll also notice when we use trim, you'll notice that little X will move. All right, when we get going. That X will tell you where your trims are or where the beep trim is set or anything like that. So now, if you just start using collective, you'll start moving forward automatically, all right? Maybe by design, most likely because look at the angle of the rotor already. So the angle of the rotor is already tilted forward. If you give it some collective, you're going to get some forward movement. All right? So we're just going to hold off for a second. Go back inside. Again, I'm looking at keyboard to do standard keyboard commands. I'm trying not to use my head tracker because some people get dizzy when I do that. All right, let's do that and jump back inside. Now I just want to do collective. I want to do back and to the bit to the right. All good, all well-made helicopters have that you have to compensate for these things. I'm not sure how far back to go yet, but we'll see when I start to lift off, and a little bit of right rudder also, right anti-torque. All right, let's lift off and see what happens and adjust as we're lifting. I'm light on the skids. I'm starting to lift off, and I'm doing okay. Up we go, a little bit more aft so I don't go forward, and up we go. That's working great. Try not to go forward. I'm just pulling aft a little. There we go. And if you look from overhead like that, you can tell whether you're going forward, backwards, or whatever. That's a nice straight up lift like that, and then now I'm going forward. All right, let's get away from the area and do some practices. What I want to do is put it into VS mode first. Oh no, sorry, I said I would do beep trim first. So just seeing the attitude from out here, well, we'll try it from here first. So I want to use my beep trim, which is on my cyclic. Take a look at this picture here. This is the dial that I'm using. Sorry, this is the hat switch I'm using where my thumb sits for my beep trim in all directions. All right, so right now I want to go for right now my stick, you can see by the input viewer, my stick is forward of the X, forward of center. That's how I'm getting that forward speed. Now if I want to not keep my hand, my whole arm pushing that stick forward, I can use my beep trim with my thumb. I'm going to just push it until the X moves up. Watch the X. There's the X moving up, nose is going down. As I pick up some speed, I might have to give it a little more collective so I don't go into the water. Now, I've actually got trim set. I'm going to let go of the cyclic. It's the cyclic's back to center. The input viewer tells the story right there. And my attitude outside is still sideways. I'm still too low to the ground. Oh, let me put some gear up. Gee whiz, I'm thinking about everything else. Put my gear up while I'm in the air. And I'm still a bit low, so now I want to raise up. But you notice it's doing it for me because of beep trim. Now I could also, well, before I start doing anything else, let's get some vertical going on here. All right, so vertical speed, I've got it set for 1,000. Let's see if that will work okay. We'll hit it. It comes on, it gives me an indication here, and if I don't do something soon, then it's going to go right into the ground. So guess what's happening? Vertical speed starting to happen right there. Do you see it? Right there. You've got to remember, it's got to stabilize, figure out what it's doing, and then react for you. That should work right now. It's going to lock in at that vertical speed, and I should see me climbing, and I hope I'm climbing soon because there's a mountain coming up. So I'm going to now put it into heading mode right away. Actually, let's use beep trim. I'm going to use beep trim to go left. All right, watch the input viewer. I'm just going to go left until I'm actually turning. I'm just holding it now. Instead of just little tiny increments, I'm holding it to get that left turn going on. Don't want to hit the mountain. Left turn going on. I'm going to leave it at that. So it's still climbing. It's still using autopilot to do the climb. And you'll notice from the outside, it's turning. That's just beep trim, you guys. That's not using any autopilot function to turn. That's pretty cool. It's handy. It's hands-free. And you can see that my cyclic's back in the middle. Now, to reset it, the way to do that, to reset this thing, and I don't see the left trim going on there. That X should be over here to the left. To reset that, I have to move my cyclic where it is right now and then release. Here's my release. Not bad. That was pretty smooth. And now while I'm holding release, again, I'll show you the picture here in the right corner of the screen. I'll show you a picture of my release button on the back of my cyclic. I'm still holding it while I manually fly it. So no other mode is working now because I released all the trim. All right, and now I'm just going to put it back to there and let go. And now the cyclic can go back where it wants to. It's going to keep that attitude. So the beep trim on the cyclic is very important. When you release it, you can manually fly the thing. I'm heading back toward the resort. I'm climbing still. So the autopilot coupler is still engaged and vertical speed still engaged. Now I want to engage. You saw me using beep trim and releasing it. Now I want to use heading. So let's, while that's still stabilized and going, let's use altitude first. We got enough altitude here. I want to start altitude hold at 3,000. So What I want to do is use beep trim to stop this. So the first thing you can do is release that. It should fall back towards a level, and if it doesn't, you can force it back to level. So I'm going to use trim now to force it back to level. And I release the trim, and boy, did it go all over the place. All right, so let's get back down to level. I'm not watching outside. There's the problem. I'm going to fly this by instruments now. All right, get back to something stable here, and get back to something level. Had enough altitude to play like that, but I shouldn't have released it without looking outside. All right, so now I'm sort of level, and what I want to do is start with altitude hold, if I can make that happen. Now you got to be pretty stable to do that. I'm not stable now. I'm in. There we go. It's on. It'll go up and down a little, and then stabilize where we are. And I'm going to let the cyclic go again and not touch it at all. All right. So now you can see I had enough altitude to not worry about it, and it's now holding my altitude for me. All right. You can see that the vertical speed is there. My altitude's holding wherever I am right now. There's the resort down there below me, and everything's stabilized again. All right. Now the heading part. Let's do that next. So the heading part is the bug right here. There's your heading bug. See, it's right here. The heading bug there is moving left and right. I can also push it. Well, I can't push it here, but I can push it in my hardware. I have hardware that push, and it actually goes back to my heading that I'm at right now. So no matter where your bug is, and this is normal in a lot of aircraft, wherever your bug is, you push the heading dial, and it pushes on your current heading. So then now I'll put it on heading hold. On heading hold now, it's going to follow the bug. So it's now just stabilizing, making sure it's around where the bug is. Let's see that from the outside again. I got lots of altitude now, and that's a good safe altitude to go play. On my live stream yesterday, that didn't work out so well. Okay, so now we want to play with the heading bug and just move it from side to side. All right, so let's have a look at that. Just using my mouse for this, you guys. So now let's just go outside a little so we see some indication of where we're going. All right, so I'm just going to use the dial down here now. I'll use the one inside the cockpit here. And I'm just going to go to the left. Remember, beep trim, I set the attitude to the left, and it kept turning forever. With heading hold, it'll go to where the bug is and then level off like it just did. All right, let's have a look outside. Yeah, I'm still going around where the resort is. I think it's behind me, but that's fine. And then now I'll go to the right. Let's just turn it right around, and it'll just turn at a safe turning radius and head there. And we'll leave it at that. So, and then now I can do a descent. So I'm at, well, I'm not that high up anyway, but yeah, I can do a slow descent. Take it down to a nice 500. Oops, my mouse took over. Bring it back here. Bring it down to a nice 500. I'm going to gently do this now so it doesn't move away from the dial. There, nice 500. And now I'll do a VS, which means the alt will go off. Okay, so VS, it locked. Let's let it stabilize. You can see now, right there, it's below the horizon. Picking up speed probably, yeah, a little bit. And it's gently working its way into a 500 feet per minute descent. The heading bug is now leveling up, so you can see that level. And I'm heading right into the mountains. All right. No, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. And then now let's just take a look where we are. River's over that way. I want to follow the river back to the resort. That's what we're going to do. All right. And you can see it's descending, and it won't stop at any point. It's descending until they tell it not to, around the right descent. Now I've got probably too much collective on here, so it's not quite getting the 500 feet per minute at this power setting. So I'm going to reduce some power, and now it'll settle in at the 500. First it's drastic, then it says no, too much, and then it comes back and it figures it out. And there it is, figuring it out. There's our 500 feet per minute. We're good. Let me just look over here. The river's right there. I want to be a little lower for the river. Okay. So as I see the tops of the trees, I'll level off using the heading hold, or sorry, the altitude hold, and then we'll turn around on 180. So there, you know, this is what this is designed to do. This is not what I could make it do yesterday. I was hitting buttons that would not respond. So I'm not quite sure what happened on live stream, but that's how it goes when you're doing something live, doesn't it? And now I'm recording this one afterwards. It's working fine. All right, so let's get turned around as we're descending. I'm going to do an altitude hold for that for the moment because I'm starting to see the treetops. Like that, it'll stabilize. And what I'm going to do is use the heading bug now to turn all the way around. And I'm going to turn around and follow the river. So that pretty much, again, I'm doing almost a 180 right here from where I was. And around she goes, and I want to follow the river back to the resort. That's a safe enough altitude also. When I go like this, that's safe enough altitude that it's not skimming trees and scaring people. And the heading bug's there, so I probably want to be more like back to here. And then head back up the river. Oh, it's right ahead. It's dead ahead. Okay. Let's go in for a landing. And we'll use beep trim for that. So I'm going to turn off all autopilot now. Again, easy enough. Uncouple. The other indications stay on, but it is actually uncoupled. All right. While it's uncoupled now, I'm going to hit the trim release on the back of the cyclic. And now I'm going to fly the helicopter manually. All right, get my gear down, reduce some speed. Well, the speed's pretty good already, but I'm going to reduce some speed, reduce some altitude. I'm flying it manually now. And I want to come down maybe toward the runway and then turn in towards the resort. But right now I'm holding down the trim release. There's no automatic anything, it's all manual. And always do that if you're losing control or if it's doing something erratic. Push that trim release on the back, and it's easy to hold with my hand or my finger while I'm actually flying. My gear should be down. You can look at the inside for the green. I don't see green arrows, so my gear's not down. I'm going to push it down again, and I should see some green arrows coming on. I'm looking down at the far left corner there. There should be some green arrows. There they go. I see one. Should be 3 of them. Let's just jump out for a second. Yep, 3 of them. There's 3 in the green. And there's the airport. And we'll just come around to the resort over here. Again, with the head tracker, I could just look over and see where I'm going. It's harder this way, but it just keeps people from getting dizzy. So I'm just going to do it this way. And give you an idea of what's happening. And show it to you from out here. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. And this is all manual. I'm holding the release for this, you guys, or just turn off all of your augmentation. Pulling some collective now to make sure I don't touch the water. Pulling back so I have no more speed.